Good. When the House is ready, the Honourable Julianne Genter.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Transport. What did the official advice provided to Cabinet on 4 December estimate would be the impact of discontinuation of the clean car discount on New Zealand's carbon dioxide emissions? And were there any inconsistencies between this advice and other analysis provided by the Ministry of Transport?
Honourable Simeon Brown.
The advice to Cabinet noted that the transport sector remains on target to achieve its contribution to the first emissions reduction plan. Advice provided to Cabinet is consistent with all the advice provided to me by the Ministry of Transport.
Julianne Genter.
Point of order.
Point of order, Julianne
Mr.
Genter.
Speaker, the Minister has referred to this document, and I'm wondering if we could ask the Minister to table the document since he's referred to the content of it in the House.
It's a matter of whether or not he relied on the document in the House or was simply making a statement from it. So I'll ask the Minister, is that a document he has with him in the House that he would want to table?
I just said that it was advice provided to me.
Advice provided, yeah. I think there's a quite slight difference between advice provided and a document. So thank you, but your next supplementary.
Why won't he release the draft regulatory impact statement that was prepared by the Ministry of Transport on the impacts of carbon emissions before we vote on the legislation today?
It was a draft document.
Why won't he release the draft document so we can see what the draft advice was before we vote on the legislation?
Well, it was a draft document. I've asked Ministry of Transport officials to prepare the proactive release of this Cabinet paper and regulatory impact statement.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary.
Supplementary, Julianne Genter.
Why won't the Minister release the advice produced by the Ministry of Transport telling us what the impact of the repeal of this legislation will be on New Zealand's carbon dioxide emissions before we vote on the legislation on the House today?
Well, as I've said, the advice to Cabinet noted that the transport sector remains on target to achieve its contribution to the first emissions budget.
Supplementary, Simon Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What impact will removing the clean car discount have on transport emissions, given they're already covered by the emissions trading scheme?
Well, that is a very good point. They are covered by the emissions trading scheme and capped under that scheme. But also, as I said in my answer to the primary question, the advice to Cabinet noted that the transport sector remains on target to achieve its contribution to the first emissions reduction plan.
Thank you. Mark Cameron.
Are there other impacts from removing this ute tax, like the benefits to the rural communities who will no longer need to pay the fee on their farm vehicles?
Well, yes, this removal will have a huge benefit for our rural communities. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the advice I've received shows that of the $290 million paid in tax under the ute tax scheme, half of it has come from people buying utes. Many of them will be farmers and tradies in our rural communities.
Honourable Julianne Genter.
Does the official advice that the Minister is refusing to release before we vote on the legislation concur with the report released by Concept Consulting for Drive Electric that the reduced uptake of electric vehicles because of the repeal of the clean car discount will see New Zealand spending over $1 billion more on imported oil from overseas and mean that we will import 100,000 fewer EVs in the period from now to 2030, thereby increasing carbon emissions relative to if the scheme stayed in place?
I dispute the assertion made by the member. In fact, I was very pleased to see yesterday that Ford announced that from the 1st of July, the day after the tax will be removed, they will be reducing the price of some of their electric vehicles from between $5,000 and $8,000. The market works.
Honourable Chris Bishop.
Has the Minister seen or received reports about past examples of ministers adamantly refusing to release correspondence about related matters to the transport portfolio that might be in the public interest to release?
Well, you may want to ask that question, but the Minister's not going to answer it. It's in the same category as the questions
Supplementary.
earlier.
Supplementary.
But not particularly relevant to the question.
Supplementary.
Honourable Julianne Genter.
If the government is concerned about subsidising wealthy people, why is the government happy to give money, billions of dollars in tax breaks to wealthy landlords when that does nothing to reduce emissions? Is it the case that this government is happy to give money to rich people when it does nothing to reduce emissions?
Sorry, that question's out of order as well. So we move now to question number 6 in the name of Mike Buttrick.